Democracy is not binary, it's a spectrum. It could become more democratic and less democratic. So you can't say, was it democratic or was it not democratic, right? What we know is that it was becoming more and more democratic, right? The Pahlavis saved Iran from absolute collapse during the Qajar dynasty, and they were building the framework, and they were moving, and then they were building the culture and education, and they were slowly making it more and more democratic. And Muhammad Reza Shah, there are many. I have a list of things that I could tell you that shows that he was constantly trying to make Iran more democratic, and sometimes he tried too hard, and it backfired because he was in a rush. If you actually want to say anything about Muhammad Reza Shah and democracy, you have to say the opposite. Maybe he was too much in a rush of making Iran democracy, more than because people like Ataturk and Reza Shah, they looked at Europe and they wanted Iranian people to have that level of well-being, peace, stability, democracy, and all of that. But the problem is that Europe, it took Europe thousands of years of fighting and bloodshed and many other things to go through that. So but Muhammad Reza Shah wanted to do all of that in one generation. He was going through it. He was going through it maybe a bit too fast, even, right? So, for example, when Muhammad Reza Shah became king, Iran was still was based on the lords and serf system, like it was feudalism in Iran. So Muhammad Reza Shah, with his white revolution, took Iran out of feudalism. So he stopped feudalism, right? He gave the farmers their own land, took it from the lord, bought it from the lord, and gave it to the farmers, so to end feudalism. And he also, with the same white revolution, he gave women the right to vote ahead of Switzerland. In Switzerland, people women didn't have the right to vote. In Iran, women did for the parliament, right? So how is he a dictator when we had more rights to vote for women ahead of some European countries? Just so you have to look at the process rather than the snapshot of where the country is at. And think about how ungrateful people have to be that you just finished feudalism and you're like, oh, why are we not as democratic as the most democratic countries in the world? Like, look how long it took Europe to go from feudalism to monarchy to constitutional monarchy to liberal democracy. And he just took you out of feudalism. And you're like, oh my God, why are we not completely at the level of complete free liberal democracy? It takes and what it takes the most, according Muhammad Reza Shah believed that what it required, democracy requires education. So he tried to make everything completely free a couple of times, and it backfired a couple of times. Like the communists would have taken over, and he had a coup, right? Like it was a coup made against him. So he was assassinated. Assassination attempt was made against him twice. So he tried, he believed that he wanted to make Iran completely democratic during his time, and then he realized that it's probably not going to happen during his time. So he actually said that this will probably happen during my son's time. But because he wanted to get Iran ready for that, he was investing so much in education because he believed that maybe democracy requires more education. So he was investing in schools and universities. He was a person that would go to the farthest villages in the country to sit at the classroom to look at teachers in a faraway village to make sure that the quality of education is good even in the farthest places. He had this plan that he was almost going to get to, but the revolution happened. He wanted to go find the best teachers in Iran at every level and record them teaching, and then using satellite TV to broadcast their teaching of every level to all of Iran. That's how much he believed in education to get Iran ready for democracy. He's the person who forgave the person who tried to. Somebody shot him to kill him, and then after he recovered, they brought that man to him, and the guy was so the Shah asked the general next to him, what should we do to him? The general told the Shah that we should execute him so that it will be a lesson for everyone else. The Shah forgave the man that tried to assassinate him right there, and they let him go. And that man became a big fan of the Shah ever since. So not very, in fact, he was too lenient sometimes. Like he was always arguing with Savak. So Savak was basically like our Mossad or like our CIA. And the Shah would constantly call Savak. He will ask
Yeah.
for so and so prisoner to be free or that prisoner to be freed. And Savak would argue with him and say, Your Highness, you don't have the authority to free this prisoner. This guy is an actual terrorist. And the Shah was like, I want you to free him. And like, there's records of Savak fighting with the Shah over freeing prisoners. So he was actually too lenient, maybe too lenient and too kind, not an evil dictator. But the people who are spreading that nonsense against him are like the leftists who hate him And the people who say that Muhammad Reza Shah was an evil dictator are the same people who say Israel did genocide on Gaza. Let me actually, two people raise their hand.
Yeah,
LF and who else?
and Vered.
There is.
Oh.
Oh.
Okay, does that answer your question?
Well, I have a few maybe follow-ups if that's all right. So, like, at least with the one, so I've heard you make the claim that the Shah saved the guy who got shot. I can send the because I looked into it. At least with the source I found, I can like cite the like so the at least if I have the right person. So the citation is like Fakhr Arai was instantly shot by the nearby officers after an investigation. It was
There's
determined that he
two.
was a member of the two-day
There's two.
party. Yeah.
There was two attempted assassinations on the Shah.
Okay. I think this one is the one in 1945,
Yeah,
the one I'm talking about. Yeah.
there was two. One of them was
Okay.
shot. The other one he was forgiven.
Okay. Okay.
Last question because I want to go to other people.
Yeah, I can just throw the three like other retorts I
Pick it.
often hear.
Okay.
So the first one is just how radical was the actual population? So was it that the majority of the people of Iran were in favor of the overthrow because they were radical? Was it that there was a big center of people that were not like Marxist or Islamist, but they were against the Shah? That's the first question. The second one is about the opulence. So they often say like, oh, the Shah was very opulent, and just look at like, for instance, the marriage was like the most expensive marriage in the world. So how can that can be combined with, oh, he only cared about his people? And the other one was the torture one. I mean, we discussed that one in a live stream, but that's also, like the Savak allegations. Those are the main retorts I often hear.
All right. Okay. Expensive
Think,
marriage. Okay,
and
so when it comes to the number of people, yeah, go on, Assis. So we don't actually. So the Shah's understanding was that the majority remained silent. Okay, and the people who came and attended the revolution were a minority. But he was upset that the people who supported him were, which were the majority, were silent. However, we have no polls. We don't know. So there's no data that demonstrates how many people were supporting the revolution. I mean, it is true that the people who participated did not. I mean, are not the majority of population, but no revolution is like that. But we don't know what the people who didn't show up. We don't know what their views were because there was no polling at that time. So the answer to the first one is we don't know.
The
With
ones that
regards
showed up
to
were the people that did show up. Were they all just Marxist and Islamist, or was there
no,
also like a
no, no,
group
no,
of?
no. A lot of them were fooled by Marxists and Islamists. A lot of them were not Marxists and Islamists themselves, but they believed their propaganda of the Marxists and Islamists, right? With regards to the marriage and everything, that being expensive, caring about the people. So, first of all, when the Shah and the Queen left Iran, they left all their jewelry inside Iran. They didn't take it with them, right? They left the crown, they left all the jewelry. And when they asked them, why didn't you take your jewelry with you? The Queen Farah Pahlavi responded, because that was not jewelry. That belonged to the Iranian. That was the wealth of the Iranians. So they believe that the royal ceremonies and the royal jewelry and everything is part of Iran's wealth, and they're just borrowing it as a symbolism of the culture. So they believe this, what they're doing, all of that is demonstrating, highlighting Iran's culture and putting Iran on the map as an advanced country, right? So there's a lot of ceremonies to, as a way to advertise the country to the world, that this is how we are, this is who we are, this is our culture. But they didn't believe that any of that wealth belonged to them, and that's why when they left the crown and all the jewelry, and they didn't take it with them, even though it was so easy for them to take, right? And also, if you're talking about how much money their ceremonies and everything else cost, it was a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of the amount of wealth that Muhammad Reza Shah generated for Iran while he was in power. Like, if anything, if you look at actually how much his income was, I think it's an embarrassment. And also, like, if you look at the palaces that the IRGC lives in right now, they're astronomically more expensive than the palace of the Shah. But the Shah deserves so much more. The Shah deserves so much more, given what how much he lifted people out of poverty in Iran with his policies. And the tortures have been proven to be false. When Shah was accused to be torturing people in Iran, he challenged the international community to come and investigate, and they came and he opened the prisons to come and investigate everything. And they asked the prisoners what their complaints were. Some of the complaints were that they didn't like the brand of soap. Some of the complaints were that didn't like the brand of cigarettes they had. If you actually look at the prison cells for some of the terrorists, they had like big studios that they could paint, and people who were accused of like throwing grenades to kill people were given 2 to 3 year prison sentences, which is insane for somebody who's throwing a grenade to kill people. I don't know why they released them after 3 years. So the Shah was very, very eager to make sure that he ends physical torture. He was okay with psychological torture. I'm being like fully transparent. He thought that psychological torture is okay, but like should be used. But he was very sensitive about making sure physical torture was completely ended under his rule. However, I don't. I'm pretty sure that some Sawak members sometimes used it anyways, but the Shah was very much against it and was trying to completely end it.
Okay.
Let's go.
Can we move on the list or?
Yeah. Let's go. Yeah.
Okay, so we had the LF right now.
No, it's good. Go
Okay,
ahead.
great. Yeah, I was just thinking. So, by the way, sorry about yesterday when I butt in. Part of the reason is listening to people talk about constitutional monarchy and not understanding the principles of it. So, listening to you explain about the Shah, previous Shah, and the attitude towards the ceremonial jewels, it's exactly the same, for example, in the UK. Those things are seen as the nation's things. It's the crowns or part of the nation. It's not personal wealth. But what I was going to say actually was connected to the propaganda and just watching this for a long time and increasingly seeing it pop up even more, especially in the last, I'd say, a week for me. Like I keep seeing the same kind of propaganda. I've heard that he tortured people. I've even heard the chant Magba dictator as opposed to homine, because I understand that to include the Shah. Like, am I
No,
right about that? Like, so they mean like
no, it doesn't. No, it
no,
doesn't.
because
No.
somebody I randomly met someone who supports what's her surname? Mariam Raj. What's her surname? The MEK
Mariam
lady.
Rajavi.
That's it. And he was saying that, and I was thinking about that chant because
Audio,
it's going.
your audio is bad
Okay.
again. Stay
It's,
close to the mic.
I am literally on it, so if it's bad, I
Okay.
might have to reconnect.
Just tell me your main point so that I will
Okay.
repeat it.
Yeah, my main point was basically that listening to the propaganda, the way they've been saying it, it's very clear that it's consistently the same points. Points of
Yep.
dictator, torturer, blah, blah, blah. But listening to it for me, it sounds a lot like projection in the same way that people will say, oh, Israel's, it's a genocide what they're doing, but also sort of apartheid claims, because it's like a projectionist. Yeah, so to me, I'm just watching this and it seems very parallel because the people who would do those things are projecting that onto the other
Okay, good.
people.
LF,
Yeah.
because your audio is really bad.
Okay.
But I
No
got the
worries.
point. Yeah.
Well, yeah, there was
But thank
something else, but no worries. Okay, cheers. Bye.
Okay. Sorry about that. It's just the audio is like really going in and out. Okay, who's next?
Vered.
Oh.
Vered? We had a Vered here. Where is she? Am I saying things? All right.
Maybe she left.
Okay, so Tom.
Yeah, hi. It sounds like a stupid question, but so they're called the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC. But I'm writing. I want to write about them eventually. So I want to know like the best evidence that they're actually Islamic. And as ChatGPT tells me, the legal and constitutional evidence is the strongest. It says guard the Islamic Revolution and its achievements. That's Article 150 of the Constitution of the Islamic Republic of Iran, which means like protecting Islam as interpreted by the Islamic Republic is one of its main goals. So could you give me some info on that, on why they're explicitly
you want
Islamic?
evidence for IRGC being Islamic?
Yes, because I'm
Do you
writing
also
about them.
would you also so
It's in the name.
let me improve your question, okay? Because it's in their name, right? And it's in every single one of their mission statements, right?
And let's say the name would be Fruity Toodles. They have apostasy laws. and stuff like that. So that's your evidence.
Your writing should be more nuanced. You shouldn't need to show IRGC as Islam. What you need to investigate is that IRGC cares about Islam and not about Iran. That is a more interesting thing to investigate, that they don't care about Iran and they actually want to use Iran for the sake of Islam. So that's the more interesting thing, because some people might think that IRGC is trying to protect Iran and Islam, but if you actually look at their name and their mission statement and everything that they say that they want to do, nothing they do is about Iran at all. Everything they do is about Islam. So go with that angle instead. And yeah.
Thank you, Tom. Samantha.
Oh, I just wanted to say I'm sorry for supporting the CCP, and I really hope Iran is free.
Well,
Me
thank
too.
you. I appreciate that, Samantha. And don't be sorry. I really admire your ability to investigate and change, and that's better than 99% of the people out there. So you should be proud of that. Okay, the fact that you evaluate, you investigate, and you change your opinion. So there's nothing to be sorry about there. Okay, you should be proud of yourself. And thank you for your support.
And it's a very nice mask today, I have to say.
Yes, it's beautiful. I like it.
Hi. I do have a question for you about. So earlier you talked about how the Shah was incredibly nice, maybe a bit too forgiving, but obviously from the state he got it from the start was a bit complicated. The question is now, let's say revolution is done, there is the plan. How do you know that he won't be as naive as he was? Because I feel like there was a lot of naivety. Is as much goodwill there is. Like we still have minority, but still minority that are very extreme and do support the regime.
So let me be clear. I say if there is any criticism for Muhammad Reza Shah, it would be that he was too lenient. But I recently changed my mind and I understood him. I understand why I understood. Here's the thing, okay? So Muhammad Reza Shah, he was so lenient and he was so kind to the Iranian people that when the Islamic Revolution happened, his generals were telling him, just give us the order. We will shoot at these people. Like, we will end this revolution. And he said, I'd rather just not rule. If I have to rule by shedding blood, I just rather not rule. So he left Iran, and so many Iranians who love him say that that was his biggest mistake, because we were left with 50 years of Islamic Republic just because he didn't want to kill just some people, right? And like, just you should have just killed those people, and millions of lives would have been saved. You could have killed thousands and saved millions of lives. And I used to think that as well, and I thought he should have just killed those people, but I was wrong, because my new understanding is that you could not have a proper, prosperous, growing society if the ruler understands what values and what standards and what methods you should have, but the population doesn't, right? I think that Muhammad Reza Shah did the right thing for us to let us just experience what we were fighting for, and to realize how ungrateful we were. Everything was growing so fast, and we didn't compare the situation we had to the Qajar dynasty. We were comparing ourselves to the West, and we were like, why are we not there? And we weren't look at where we just were just like a minute ago, right? And we were asking our Shah to, like, that's how we should be immediately, right? And we were ungrateful to our Shah, and the Shah left, and he didn't rule over us by force. And now we have a much more mature population in Iran. So now when we want Pahlavi, we are begging for Pahlavi. Like, we're not ungrateful anymore. We now realize what he was doing. We now realize the values, the methods, the ideas that makes a nation great. So this time it's not going to be from the top to bottom. It's going to be from the bottom up.
I agree that what he did was the right decision because the whole point is that he wanted to bring it closer to the West and giving that choice to the people. It's great. But right now, we also do have a certain amount of population that is very radical.
Right.
And even though it's a small percentage, we're still talking about at least a few millions. How do you think the Shah will handle the situation? Because
He's not going to be handling it,
Mhm.
right? Because he's not going to be an absolute monarch, right? So it's not like he's going to be the ultimate decision maker. We're going to be a democracy. So when it comes to security matters, I'm thinking that's going to be the prime minister mostly deciding that. And the prime minister is indirectly elected by the people. So if he does become the Shah, that's not going to be part of his responsibility. I think the prime minister would be more directly involved with that. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
yes, what would you do? Because obviously, we both know the danger of Islam and especially extremism, like obviously in
Right.
Iran and Israel. What would you do in that situation?
I will go Old Testament on them. Right. I will find these people all wherever they're hiding in their holes and I will drag them out and I would if I have any excuse to eliminate them, I will take advantage of that. Like if I was part of the military or the intelligence, I would try to come up with ways to incentivize them to do something that I could actually take them out instead of jailing them. But I would, yeah. So, I mean, I would also use the advantage of the fact that we're in a transition period. By the way, I don't think it's millions of people. I think there's millions of people with shit ideas, but the ones who are going to be
Dangerous.
terrorists, I think they're going to be more in the tens of thousands. There are going to be millions of people with really shit ideas, but they're the ones that are going to pick up arms and going to be a problem for the society, the terrorists, they are going to be in tens of thousands, not in millions. And yeah, and I think they need to be. I think that, especially given that the transition period is going to be the most sensitive time, I think you need to be extremely intolerant.
BT now.
Can you give us a full list just in case people
Yes, I
who
can. It's BT,
know they would?
myself, Heldi, Babak, Michael, Lindsay, Uncle, Oscar, and Van Hendrik.
Cool.
And two people, Arthur and Haiti, also just raised their hand. Go on, BT.
Okay, Armin, talk to me about Qatar. Let me give you my kind of preface and question, and I want to see how you feel about this. We know that Qatar sits on the, what's it called, whatever, the field of their natural gas with Iran, right?
Yes.
So they are going to benefit from having a decent relationship with the Shah, given that this is something that they share. They would benefit with a decent relationship with the Shah because of this. They also receive a lot of protection from the United States, right? With our base in Doha. So that would lead me to believe that moving forward, we might be able to assume that they could kind of lean to a more Western cooperative, whatever. They still love to host terrorists. Their second hobby is putting money into the education system in the US to undermine our stability here. They promote themselves as mediators between terrorists and everybody else. They're clearly not innocent mediators. Will we have between us, the US, and Iran, when the IRGC falls and we have the Shah back, between him and the United States, have we now kind of put them into a corner in a sense? Do you expect anything decent coming out of them moving forward? Potentially not of their own goodwill, but how is that relationship going to look in your eyes right now with the fall of the IRGC?
The Qatari government was saved by the IRGC, by the Islamic Republic, when Saudi Arabia and a couple other countries tried to put a blockade on them. The Qataris all everything right now to the Islamic Republic, protecting them at that point. The Islamic Republic and Turkey was involved as well. And also, with regards to the gas fields, they actually love the Islamic Republic because the Islamic Republic is incapable of extracting gas from their side
Right.
as much as Qatar is. So I think, I don't know how it works, but I think that means a lot more is left for Qatar to extract because
They're
Islamic
taking
Republic.
more.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. So wouldn't that cause a lot of hostility? Like the fact that the new regime, the new government is going to not be tolerating any of the Qatari BS, and also they're now going to be competing for who can extract the most gas from that gas field. So I think like that, doesn't that cause hostility between them?
Well, I mean, on the surface, potentially, yes, but I think,
Yeah.
you know, they, at some point, they're going to have to find some sort of relations and agreement, you know,
Yes.
whatever that looks like. I mean,
So I mean, the Qataris always use soft power. Okay, it's not like they believed in radical Islam or wokeism having leverage everywhere, right? So if they have
right.
to promote woke leftist wokeism or radical Islam or I don't know Nick Fuentes type right leaning garbage, as long as it gives them leverage, more soft power, they will spread it, right? So given that, I don't think that's going to change. I'm not sure. Given that there's here, the problem is that they're a very, very, very small country, and they don't, and they need to, they feel like everybody around them is going to be hostile against them, and there's not that much military power that they could use against anybody. So the only leverage they have is to become a negotiating table for different countries and having a lot of soft power. And I don't see how that dynamic is going to change. So I think that given they're going to do the same thing in Iran like they do in US and other places, so I think a lot of Iranian people are going to get angry about that. So we're going to have the similar views that you guys have over Qatar. We're going to have that in the future against them as well, especially given that a lot of Iranians um, have a historical tension with many of the Persian Arab countries around the Persian Gulf, right? So, and I think that is going to somehow impact our politics. But Prince Reza Pahlavi, he's insisting on us attempting at least to have good relationship with everybody in the region. So that we're going to make that attempt. If that doesn't work, it's going to be because of the other side.
Sure. And so back to what you had spoken about the IRGC, you know, covering for their ass. It's clearly not a favor. I don't think it's not a favor that they're going to be able to call back on right now in a time of need and ask Qatar for anything overt, at least. Certainly, I
Oh
don't
no.
expect that they can flee and seek refuge there either. Is that in part due to Trump having cozied up with Qatar in recent months?
Well, maybe that, and also the fact that Israel just bombed some Hamas leaders, attempted at least to kill some Hamas leaders in Qatar. That doesn't seem like a safe place anymore, given that Israel doesn't respect, justifiably doesn't respect
Yeah,
Qatari, Qatari BS anymore. So,
yeah.
so
Good
that
point.
doesn't seem like a good destination anymore after what Israel did in Doha.
I'll give up
Yeah,
my
but
turn, but for another time, I'm very curious to hear a little more from you as well about how this is going to affect the Russia-China three-way marriage. But anyhow, thank you.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, BT June. And then who's next? So
It would be
the
me.
list. Oh, that would be you.
Yes, and yeah, I saw you, Heidi. I saw you. So I was listening to you and Goldie, and you both were pretty much on around on the question when is some sort of help is going to come to the Iranian people. I was thinking because you know my style by now. I like to analyze the army aspect because this is the stuff that I kind of know. And so I know the American MO, which is usually to overpower and overwhelm the enemy with not just technology, but amazing mobilization. They are the masters of mobilizing. It's not easy to take 200,000 people and move them to fight some other place. And they've done it a few times. This is their MO, and they're not going to show up not ready when their American bases are threatened by ballistic missiles. They're not going to attack before they know that their bases are not going to be harmed, and they're going to mobilize the relevant defense systems and people to the place. Now, let's say that it was planned a few days ago and Trump is not emotional and just spitting things out. I'm estimating that it will take the US military to mobilize from America at least 10 days. Let's say they're not doing it from America because they have lots of bases in big operations like this. They can take things from Cuba, from Qatar, from places that they have all the logistics. Even then, it'll take about a week, maybe a little less. So the answer is, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what they're planning. If it's just an air raid, a massive air raid, they can do it from Qatar, and that's it. But if it's more complicated than this and they need to mobilize forces, a few days more at least. And I wanted to see what you think about it, because that was what I thought until I saw the pizza test of the Pentagon.
Yes, I saw that, and I'm going to show it to Goldie when
And
we go
it
back
broke
online.
everything that I thought. The
Oh.
whole pretty lecture that I just gave shattered. So what do you think?
Well, actually, what you're saying makes a lot of sense, because now that I think about it, as much of a paper tiger the Islamic Republic is, they could still do a lot of damage, especially if they think that this is it. If, like, imagine if you're the Islamic Republic and you think that, okay, we're getting close to collapse, and if we don't do everything we can, then this is like, we might as well just use whatever we have left, or else we're going to die. So, like, when the Islamic Republic was fighting against Israel in the 12-day war, obviously they didn't want to use everything. They want to use a small percentage of what they had, just in case the war keeps on going on, so that they don't run out. But if they think this is at the end, then they're just going to unload everything they have left on everybody around them, including Israel. So you're right that if that's the assessment of the United States, then they require more preparation to be able to defend themselves against that unloading of all of your ammunition and everything else that you have left.
So
That
what
makes
is this
sense.
pizza thing?
So the pizza thing might
Something's
be like
cooking.
they are, yeah. So they might be cooking, but based on what you're saying, like they require, like all of that requires a week of planning. So that means a week of ordering pizzas. So that means like it might not be, it might continue for like this level of pizza ordering on in the Pentagon might just continue for the next couple of days. So we'll see.
I have an update from a Western official, a change of position from defense to position of imminent attack. Like right now, I got sent that. The steps involve troop movement. Now, after sunset, Iran has begun clearing these corridors. That means clearing specific airspaces to allow missiles to launch and external targets without colliding with civilian or friendly aircrafts.
Can you repeat that?
Okay, basically, in short, Iran is basically now clearing areas that might get hit if they try to launch their missiles, so they can launch their missiles and do a full-scale attack. I just got that update like literally a minute ago. And in general, about the whole strategy thing of the military. So what I can tell you is that ever since the 12th-day war, there have been talks about it. Let's just say that the 12th day war is only officially 12th day for us. We pretty much knew that this is the way it's going to go. There have been preparations, and obviously still a lot of things that you need to think about, of like, how much do you want Israel to do things, how much do you want the United States to do things. But yeah, I guess we're gonna see things real soon. Let me see if there's another thing.
So while you're checking,
Iran. Okay, so the US will attack in Iran in the next 24 hours.
by who?
The US will attack in Iran in the next 24 hours.
Yeah, who's the
Who's
news
saying that?
agency? Who's saying that?
Sources
We should
in
move.
the security
How about
system.
how about this? How about something? We need to move to other. We need to move on to
Right.
other people. Can you post a link in the chat and we could just check
Yes.
it there? Okay, thank you.
It's in Hebrew, so you're gonna have to translate it.
It's okay. We can
I'll take a look at it anyway. Heidi or Hildy?
Heidi, hi.
Heidi, hello.
The first time I've used this, so I hope I sound okay.
Yes.
One of the
Welcome to
things
the group.
is, oh, thank you. Armin, you were exactly right what you said earlier about the understanding of previous generations, because I was an older teenager when the revolution happened. And I think when you younger people think about this, remember the world was entirely ignorant, the Western world, about Islam. Most people that lived in the West had never met an Iranian. They didn't know they existed before the revolution, which is why many of the Iranian refugees that came to the West, I happened to live in a town that received a lot of them, they called themselves Persian. That's why we're so connected to the word Persian instead of Iranian. But even the Middle East had no clue as to the level of radicalism for which Islam is capable. The Intifada hadn't happened in the Muslim areas of Israel. Iran was really the first, and we couldn't have imagined that. Even the Middle East, I don't think, could have imagined how bad it got. So keep that in mind. Someone mentioned where these people are going to flee to. I'm kind of concerned about that. I suspect they're going to flee to Central and South America. So I'm a little worried that we're going to end up with a lot of problems over here. But as far as the impression, when I think back to the Iranians I met who were refugees directly after the revolution, who, like I said, called themselves Persian, I noticed they didn't really comment on it. And these are people that would be like in their 70s and 80s today. I remember them mentioning kind of some of the opulence, but I think you're exactly right. The West is doing that now. They were too picky when they had a good thing. No government is going to be perfect and do the right thing all the time. Even our own. I'm American. And you will have good times and bad times. And you have to remember that you live in a very free society and cherish that. As far as going to the future, the young people that are going to be setting up Iran today, they're going to have to come up with their own template because the previous generations didn't have one. So you really don't have anything to look back on as to how to deal with the concept of radical Islam. Because my generation, and I'm in my 60s, we screwed it up. And not out of stupidity. We just were ignorant. We didn't do it out of meanness or even greed or our own benefit. I really don't think at the time the average Western citizen had a clue as to what would happen. It's not excusing it, but we had a lot of hubris, and unfortunately the Iranians paid the price. And I have to admit, I'm so thrilled to see the end. That's all. Thank you.
They were supposed to go to Venezuela. That was their plan. That plan doesn't seem like feasible anymore. The reason why people call themselves Persian instead of Iranian, which is the proper name, is because the Islamic Republic was radical and Iranians didn't want it to be associated with that. So they used the word Persian just so that they could, because people refer to the Islamic Republic as Iran, and a lot of Iranians didn't want to be associated with that, and that's why they used the word Persian. And I do think the Iranian people today are very well positioned to fight against radical Islam because they are radical Islamophobes. And I think that's what you need to be in the face of Islam. And I think the Iranian people understand the values that make a society great better than most people around the world. They understand, like a lot of people, they understand the importance of freedom, they understand the importance of secularism, and not because they are like inherently wiser, but because just in the way that as somebody who's thirsty understands the value of water more than somebody who's not, the Iranian people now understand the value of freedom, secularism, free speech, and all of these other values more than most people around the world because they saw what happens when you don't have them. All right, so who's next? You're muted, Essie.
Yeah, Babak is not right now.
First of all, it's a new webcam I have, so I'm just gonna ask. I can see the pictures fine. I mean, you can even see my pimple. Is the sound good?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
good. Yes, it's pretty good. You know, it's good. Yeah.
First of all, I'm from Iran. English is not my first language. I live in Denmark, so excuse me for my linguistics. But just a quick question, because I don't know many Iranians here in Denmark, because there's really not many of them. Most here are Arabs. So I've met a few, but I've seen a lot on the internet from other Western countries. First, I thought, wow, you see here in Iran, they are bumped with propaganda about hating Israel, but they don't. But then I saw Iranians in other Western countries, they are also very pro-Israel. I'm trying to figure out what's the mentality of the Iranians. I mean, I am Iranian, but most of my life I've lived here in Denmark. I came here when I was 5 years old, so that's 42 years. Yeah, I was born when Khomeini, couple of days after Khomeini came to power. What a time to be born, eh?
So your question is, why are Iranians in such love Israel so much?
No, what's the mentality of Iranians? Because I'm trying to understand. Because I'm pro Israel too, but it's
yeah. Well, there's a
with the
modern answer, there's a more recent answer, and there's an ancient answer. Recently, we fell back in love with Israel, okay, because of them killing our enemies more efficiently than anyone in the world, right? So think about Israelis coming out and killing Nasrallah, Ismail Haniyeh. I mean, how could you not love that? These are our enemies, and they're so effective at taking them out. Israel's enemy locally is the Palestinian cause, which the Iranian people hate more than anything because they consider the Islamic Republic to be part of the Palestinian cause, the resistance. They don't consider the Islamic Republic to be Iranian. They actually, it's almost like a Palestinian invasion of our land, right? So Israel is fighting the resistance, which is basically the same resistance that has invaded our country. So we have a mutual enemy, but also because they're anti the Islamic Republic. And they're also fighting Islamic ideology as a part of them, at least, that are trying to uh, destroy Israel. I mean, the same people who are trying to destroy Israel are the same people who destroyed our country, right? So we have a mutual enemy. So you think like our goals are aligned, our interests are aligned, and we also have similar values. Like we live in an area in the Middle East where everybody is fighting for death. It's a cult of death. So the nation of Iran and the nation of Israel are the two groups of people that are fighting for life. They're fighting for freedom. They're fighting for prosperity. Okay, they're not so in this insane part of the world. These are the two same group of people. So we have the same enemy and we have the same goals. We have the same values. So that by itself is enough for us to connect with each other. But then you also, the young generation also realizes that, oh, apparently we also had an ancient connection with each other. So this is, we have a new connection, but we also had ancient connection with each other that we forgot because in the past 50 years because of the Islamic Republic, and now we're being reintroduced to that ancient connection with each other. And Cyrus the Great is a major symbol for both Jews and Persians, and it's a symbol of unity between Iranians and the nation of Iran and the nation of Israel, and we bond over our shared history and our historical bonds as well. So those are the answers.
So I've talked to a lot of Israelis on Omi TV, and one thing I figured out is we think the same, we talk pretty much the same way, we act the same way. I mean, we Iranians are a little more goofy. That's how we are. We are.
Yeah, okay.
Basically, we are just the same. They're the closest we have to brothers and sisters.
If I may add, we also have a Middle Eastern thinking and a Middle Eastern head, but we are refused to be Arabized, which is something that connects us.
Connects us. Oh my God. Yeah, that's a good answer. That's a good answer. All right. So let's go to the next person.
The next person is Michael. Michael,
can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
So I have a question, Armin. Is it true that Pezeshki, well, don't quote me on this, right? But is it true that because the media seems distorting some of the news, is it true that Pezeshkian has been involved in some of the protests or not? Or that's bullshit?
No, 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 no. Where are you getting that from?
I think I know where he's
I
getting
saw
at.
it
I
on the
think he's getting
news.
confused. What you're seeing on the
Oh,
news is they're saying that Pezeshkian is getting involved in with pro-regime rallies, and that there's
yes,
pro-regime rallies taking place, and that's propaganda. There's not like
Like the
actual
yeah.
pro-regime
lefties.
rallies.
No, no, no. In response to the
Oh,
current revolution, the Islamic Republic has set up some protests against the revolutions to bring up their people to show that we have support too.
oh
So he's
God.
participating in that,
I bet they're getting paid.
or forced, more likely.
Yeah, Al
Hmm.
Jazeera is like a huge source of that propaganda. I think Democracy Now! Might also be showing that.
Good to
Oh my
know
god.
because that's why I asked in the super chat on YouTube. I'm like, oh, maybe like Armin knows. And I'm now that I know it's like shit. They're using psychological warfare at this
Always.
point.
Yeah,
I
that
think
was the video that I
Iran is
showed you from
a
Ghalibaf. The video that I showed you from Ghalibaf was in that, like, they brought out the people because they want to show the world, like, no, we actually have support. So that was, he was speaking to that crowd.
I feel like that
can
guy
I
is like a total liar. Like all he does
Yeah,
is
of
like,
course.
oh, we're with the people. Then he's like, no, fuck you guys, we're not with you. And then he's like, I'm backing my own people that supports the regime. That's what I feel.
Yeah, of course, of course. They
He's like
all
a
are.
snake.
Yeah.
so
All
can
right.
I
Yeah.
say one thing?
Uh,
I think
Okay, short, because there's a lot of people on the
short,
list, but yeah.
very
yeah,
short.
like a ton.
It's a sentence. I think Pezeshkian is battery operated, so it's not like completely matter.
All right, let's go to the next person.
Lindsay,
Lindsay.
Hi.
hello.
I first off wanted to say, Armin, to you and Gold, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, like a thank you for what you're doing. Like you're doing it so many hours a day. And I think that this work that you do is really, really important to keep people constantly engaged. So I think, you deserve a big thank you for this because it's not easy
Thank,
work. And so thank you
thank
for
you.
I have two things I wanted to ask you about. The first thing is, excuse my ignorance, what is sort of the religious makeup in Iran? Because I thought that it was like mostly a Muslim country. And, I have Muslim friends. And I'm just sort of wondering what that will look like, not as like with rules and stuff, but what that kind of makeup is in Iran today. I assume not everybody's like the crazy regime, but like how would that look like? What holidays would the whole country celebrate together?
Oh, that's a very good question. Okay, so we're minority Muslim. So a couple of years ago, we had a poll, and the poll suggested that we're 37% Muslim right now. But I think by now it must be much lower because that was a couple of years ago. I don't know
Because people
exactly
people left because they were upset with the regime or because they left the country.
because they hate the regime. So they that's why they assume that. I mean, the Islamic Republic made them hate Islam,
Of course.
right? Yeah. So yeah, but I think by now it must be much lower, and I think that the hatred for Islam is higher in Iran than any other country, and I think most of the holidays, I'm pretty sure we're gonna allow Muslims to have their personal holidays, but I think the mass majority of the focus of the country is going to be focused on Persian holidays, like Shab Yalda, like Nowruz, our ancient pre-Islamic holidays.
Is there a Christian population at all, like a Coptic in Iran, or?
There is. I can give you the percentages if you.
I'm just sort of wondering what kind of like multiculturalism is there, and like from the sense I get from like your amazing people is that you're accepting of everyone, like just don't force
except
yourself.
except Islamists and leftists in
That's
MK.
we'll say proselytizing to extreme.
Well, I mean, I think, okay, hold on. Let me just give you the number. I think like a lot of people are intolerant of leftism now, even if you are not like we have had years of misery because of these people. I mean, I'm for free speech maximal. I'm a free speech maximalist, but I think like communism and Islam should not be allowed in our politics in the future. Like no, like they should be banned. So these are the percentages.
Everyone
Okay?
should celebrate Halloween.
They already do in Iran. They already
Perfect.
do. Okay. So we have 32% Shia Muslim. Okay. 22% no religion at all, but
Okay.
do believe in God, but no religion, right? Actually, maybe some of them do believe. Okay, so 9% self-identifying atheists. Among those nuns, some of them are atheists because they don't believe in God, but they don't identify as atheists. Then we have 8% Zoroastrianism, Zoroastrian, 7% spiritual, 6% agnostic, 5% Sunni Muslim, 3% Sufi, 3% identify as humanist. Christian is only 1.5%, but this is from 2020. So it might be higher by now. But I think the highest demographic, the higher, if you add the agnostics and the atheists and the nuns together, I think the largest group is going to be no religion.
Okay,
Yeah.
so then my next question, I wanted to point this out, is that a few people that I've spoken to today have told me that the protests are getting smaller and it's going to die out. Now, I've been watching you. I know it's not true, but this is what a few people here in Israel have said to me. So maybe you and your friends maybe want to get that message out a little bit more, that there's a lot of propaganda coming out, that they're getting smaller and that they're using the old footage, because people here in Israel are asking me about, like, are saying, no, it's getting smaller. So I don't know if that message is getting.
That's why I've been contacting Channel 14 and Channel 12 to update them on the situation. There's a lot of confusion, and obviously people are trying to not be too hopeful because we are used to bad things happening, as you know.
Just that the news outlets is commenting on how many deaths there are any seconds. Every story is in the news here is about the deaths in the streets of Iran.
So I would just get that story out a little bit more, that they're putting out propaganda to make it look like it's smaller.
I'm working on it.
I don't know if we could say either way because there is complete shutdown over there, right?
Yeah.
So it's really hard to come up with.
You showed, or maybe it was on Tusi. He showed, like, he made fun of it, of the old people protest, their protest. It was all pensioners, and then they're putting out this video of like all of these mass protests, and there he said it's from when Soleimani was killed, and you can tell because it's the summer. That's it.
Yep. That's it. By the way, Lindsay, I made you like Lindsay, Bobak, Heidi. I made you guys all premium members so that you have access like into all our future calls, right? So if people open their mic and speak, I'm going to switch them from standard members to premium members. If I missed anybody, let me know. But now in our future calls, if it's a premium call, you guys have access to it as well, right? Okay, so I hope you guys come back because we have like every day we have discussions here. So great to have you guys here. Okay, Essie, who's next?
Lindsay, uncle.
Uncle. He's getting ready. Uncle? There we go.
You guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we hear you.
Excellent. Okay. So I had a twofold question, and it pertains to the same thing as the Kurds. So there are some reports that it pertains to the Kurdish Freedom Party, and they had some clashes with the security forces of the Islamic Republic. Now, I'm not sure if those are actually pertaining to anything, motivated, but it's been slanted in one way or the other that it's somewhat either a secessionist or it's anti-regime, or it's just incidentally self-defense that has been, and it's the PAK, if that makes more sense, like the Kurdish Freedom Party. Now, that by itself is a kind of unverified report that I find a bit difficult to take too seriously, if it wasn't that there were quite a lot of reports. I mean, this is easily to find, is these from the 12-day war calls from the Kurdish movements to create Kurdistan. And they utilized, and this is where it matters, because Armin, you mentioned earlier, like, fine, they might be secessionist, but you have Kurdish Iranians and then you have Kurdish secessionists. They're going to control it. That's not going to be an issue. Fine, I get what you're saying, but I find it a little bit too hard. If I was in that position, it would be difficult for me to ignore that there will be, when you have a unified call and they're utilizing the movements in Iran prior to this movement. Okay, it was during June last year. So when this is occurring right now, then I find it hard to see that precedence is not set. And one reason, here I will be giving an honorary mention before I just yield my space here. On the flip side, these are Sunni Muslims that we can actually kind of cooperate with. In Norway, they had hosted on their own accord a Christmas concert, free of entrance, free of charge for anyone, on the 20th of December. Do you think that the secessionists in Iran, especially pertaining to the Kurds, are going to be utilizing because this is an opening. This are revolutionary changes, after all. Why would they not be exploiting it? Right? So how much of an effect do you think that is? And on the flip side, because if you're looking at from the perspective of a European, they might be Muslims, but they are also nationalists. We can work with these people. They are very different from...
Wait, with cessationists? You want to work with like Kurdish separatists?
No, not that I want to work with. What do you think will be the effect?
They're not nationalists. They're anti-nationalists.
No, they're not. The Kurdish nationalists will be anti-Iranian.
No, they're not Kurdish nationalists because there's no Kurdish nation. They're anti-nationalists. They're anti-nationalism.
Right, but hardly any different from those who seek to resurrect the jihadi caliphate, right? They want to have a nation that they have an idea.
No. They want to destroy other people's nations. You only can make a nation like Israel when you go somewhere where there's no nation. Okay, you make a nation. If your nation requires the destructions of 4 nations, then you're not making a nation. You're destroying 4 nations.
It's like the Iraqi Kurds. I think those
but,
are different too.
But hold on. But to be clear, the Kurds are not like, because they are a good contrast. Both are Sunni Muslims.
They're not.
The jihadis have hijacked.
No. They're commie terrorists. Okay, this is the separatists. The Kurdish people that we celebrate are the proper nationalists. When you talk about Kurdish nationalists, we are talking about Iran, the Iranian nation. When our Kurdish we have a lot of the vast majority of Iranian Kurds are nationalists. By nationalists, that we mean that they're patriotic towards the country of Iran and they don't want to tear it apart.
Okay.
So I think it's an insult to the word nationalist to call cessationist nationalists when you want to destroy other people's nations.
Fine, but to be clear, because
no, it's not. It's reality. Is we have the nation state as it exists, as it is right now. It exists. There is no nation state. There is no Kurdish nation state.
But if we move from the esoteric factor of it all, right? So Iran is this thing, right? And
this is legal. This is not like something small. This is completely legal.
But hold on.
You're violating. What they want to do is they want to violate other countries' border integrity, which is illegal. So this is like a really serious thing.
Right, and I wouldn't disagree with you necessarily, but if you consider that the Kurds are currently under attack in northern Syria by jihadis that are super nationalists, right? And they are occupiers.
Yeah, but that doesn't give them a right to come and destroy our country.
No, but that's beside the, like, I'm not giving any moral justification. But hold on, Marmot, it's not a matter of moral justification.
But make your main point, because I don't know where we're going with this. What's the main point?
Because it's an opening for those who have, like, I understand what you're saying.
Tell me the point, like the main point that you're trying to make in one sentence.
Do you think that this upheaval that is occurring could be causing those who want Kurdistan to be a factor?
But the small minorities in Iran who want to secede from Iran, yes, a lot of them will think that this is the chance, and we will crush them. We will eradicate them. We will.
So is Kurdistan a threat? Is Kurdistan a
Yes,
threat?
Kurdistan is a threat. Kurdistan is a threat to Iran, and we will not tolerate it. Neither will Iranian Kurds.
So, in regards to what Jolani's forces are doing in Aleppo with the Kurds, would they be considered nonetheless an enemy?
Syria is not even a proper country. Like that's a Frankenstein monster.
But the Kurds are not an ally. Are the Kurds not an ally?
This is not the cessationists. Kurds are allies. Iranian Kurds are
It's the
allies.
same thing with
because they're
Jordan too.
Iranian.
Jordan's not a real nation.
Fine.
Hold on, Uncle. You have to be more careful with your words. Are Kurds an ally? Please don't mix all Kurds with the cessationists. Of course, Kurds are ally. There are our citizens. They're Iranians. Of course, they're allies. Okay. We're not talking about Kurds. You're talking about Kurdish separatists. And no, Kurdish separatists are not allies. They are our enemy. They're as much of an enemy to us as the Islamic Republic.
And that's not something I'm disputing. If you're talking about the Kurds in Aleppo, they are hardly related to the Kurds of Iran.
Yeah, so why are we talking about them then?
Their sentiments, they cross borders, and that's a complication.
We're not going to let that. They could keep their fight wherever they are. If they want to fight Jolani in Syria, that's none of our business. If it wants to cross our border, then we're going to crush them.
But if you
keep that garbage in where you are,
would you be supportive or against?
No. We're going to be against them, obviously, because their commie terrorist ideology crossing our border. We're going to be against them.
So you would let Jolani destroy them? Like if you had a choice? The choice was Jolani.
It's none of our business. That's serious business. We have a country to build. That's none of our business. If we're going to be involved across our borders, we're probably going to see what Israel's position is, and yeah, we'll see. That's a topic for another day. What right now we're going to focus on rebuilding Iran.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
People
no, guys, let's keep the order. Let's make sure Asi is don't make it difficult for Asi too much. Thank you, Asi.
Dajjal. Now it's Oscar. Let me go through the list real quick. It's Oscar, Van Hendrik, Arthur, Cat Lady, Joseph, Itai, Jan or Jan, and Dajjal.
Yeah, I just wanted to report on the news. I don't know if you guys saw, but maybe an hour or 2 hours ago in Mississippi. There's actually I wanted to also shout out Shauna because you're gonna know what I'm talking about. In Mississippi, there was an attack on a synagogue recently by a young man, and he claimed to be attacking the synagogue because he was attacking the synagogue of Satan. Now, this is goes to something that I've noticed increased lately, which is, I think I've talked about this in this channel, the increased worry within the US of the Christian nationalism or Christian, hatred towards other minorities. And this attack in Mississippi, to me, is a clear example of trend that I fear see increasing more, because that quote of the synagogue of Satan actually comes from the apocalypse in the text, the Bible. So I was surprised a couple, 2 hours ago, there was an attack at the synagogue in Mississippi. So I just kind of wanted to comment on that.
Thank you, Oscar. Thank you for telling me. It's important for me to know this stuff. Van Hendricks.
All right. Yeah. So Armin, I wanted to go back to the points about Mohammed Reza Shah. So about the torture point on the live stream before, I once asked you about the 1976 Amnesty International report, and I'm going to send it in the chat also for people. Then we already concluded that they misrepresented the line about psychological torture and mental torture, but that was only one of the claims.
Amnesty International is also, remember, that considers Israel to be apartheid and committing genocide.
The claim they make, another argument they make in the document, is that they did not get to see the conditions of the prisons. They did get to speak to prisoners, and they did get stories of physical torture. And between the period of 1972 and 1976, they tried to gain access to trials, and they never got access to trials.
There were other people investigating it as well. The BBC was given access. So there were many other different groups that were given access. And here's the thing, even if you say they didn't have access to this or that, the point is that there is no evidence for torture.
Yes, well, but the thing is, I just want to put the evidence in order, right? So You're saying there's a lot of evidence. So you're mentioning like the BBC documentary Iran in Search of Democracy. So that's on the one side, and on the other side we have an Amnesty International document
which provides no evidence for torture.
Yeah, but if you take a step back and you say, okay, on the one hand we have like a film crew that went to a government and said, hey, we're going to film, and they saw
Which
nothing
Amnesty
happening. And then you have
International provides no
Yeah.
evidence for torture. It just tells you that we were given access here and not there, but it provides no evidence for torture. But making a claim, they're making the claim. The burden of proof is on the shoulder of the claimant. There's a torture. If you make a claim that there's torture, you can't expect from me evidence for lack of torture. You have to provide evidence for torture because you made the claim. The burden of proof is on the person who claims it.
But then, so the stance is that we're agnostic on whether torture happened, rather leaning to
Well,
it didn't happen
yeah,
more
I
than
mean,
that it
well,
didn't.
agnostic assumes like an epsilon amount of possibility, not like 50-50, right?
Yeah,
When you make
yeah.
a claim and you cannot prove it, it's not 50-50, it's epsilon.
The thing is, I think if you would compare it to,
You
for
understand what I'm
instance, North
saying?
Korea,
Like when you make a
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
claim, especially like it's like if you know your father, right?
Mhm.
And I say, and you think like this is not a man that will go around and commit mass murder, right? And like I come and claim that your father committed mass murder, and like Armin it hasn't. He doesn't. I'm like, well, I think he has. And you tell me like, give me evidence, and I don't give you evidence. Is it 50-50? Like based on what you know about your father, is the chances of him committing mass murder 50-50? Or like, okay, that's ridiculous.
The thing is, you know, I get like you can't disprove a negative, right? So I fully understand it.
The man who forgives the person who tried to assassinate him, the man that allows people who constantly is fighting Savak to, we have evidence for this. We have evidence or records from him talking to Savak, trying to free prisoners because he thinks that they should be free. The man that gives 2 to 3 year prison sentences to people who committed like acts of terror, right? The man that when Saddam that didn't want to kill Khomeini, so he just sent him to Iraq. And when Saddam called him and told him like, I can kill this man for you, he said, don't kill him. That's not right. And then when Khomeini was in Paris, he called the French people there and tried to make sure that he is in good condition. Right? He wanted to make sure Khomeini is in good condition. He wanted to make sure Khomeini was not killed by Saddam because he thought that that's the right thing to do. Right? The man who we have on record that he decided not to rule over Iran because he didn't want to rule by shedding blood. Okay, do you think that's a man that when you ask him about torture, he gets really aggressively, passionately speaks against it, right? If we have no evidence either way, do you think it's fair to accuse him of committing doing torture?
No, I mean,
It's fair to say that.
right. I agree with you. So, but then I guess the argument would be more that you look at the surrounding like evidence of what kind of person it is. But I still
Yeah,
want.
if you accuse somebody of torture, you better have good evidence for it or fuck off the person making these claims. If such a person rebuilt Iran to the point where so many people have been lifted out of poverty and so many Iranians lived better lives, and somebody that when he woke up in the morning, the first thing he would check was the weather because he wanted to make sure that he wanted to rain because he was worried about the farmers. He every day he was checking, every morning he woke up he was checking if it's raining because he was worried about the farmer. So if such a man is accused of torture, you better have evidence for it.